Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about the 4 mistakes you might be making on Alexstraza. Now, this is going to be beginner tips, but I've seen people all the way up to masters making these same mistakes, so I think it'll definitely help out. And at the end of this video, I'm going to be giving my recommended build for Alexstraza, the one that I feel fits in the most scenarios. So the first mistake that I see way too common is that people don't combo their abilities with their dragon form to reset their abilities. And let me wait until this Arthas walks away, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So when you're using your abilities, your dragon form has a slight cast time. So if you see that a fight's happening right here, and you cast dragon form first, there's going to be 1.25 seconds that you're not going to be doing anything. But there's also going to be 3 seconds after that before your abundance goes off, which means that ultimately you have essentially 4.25 seconds before anything of value happens from you. That 4.25 seconds means that you're likely going to have your team die before anything beneficial happens. Also, your dragon form resets the cooldowns of your abilities. So, if you do this combo correctly, this is how you're going to get the most effect out of a team fight. You're going to walk up to a team fight, you're going to cast your heals first, go dragon form, which resets your heal cooldowns, and then toss your heals again. And you can see, boom, 6,300 healing, and you can get off all of your value without having to worry about losing any benefit from these heals, or any benefit from any of your abilities. So that's essentially how the combo works. You do your abilities first, and then you quickly use Dragon Queen, and then you use your abilities again. It's a lot of commitment for a fight, but doing this combo correctly will allow you to win any team fight on an objective that you know where it's going to be. And this is a big problem that I see, is people pick her on Infernal Shrines, but they don't do this combo correctly, which I feel like those people are causing her win rate on Infernal Shrines to go down. But also, this combo allows you to not only win a fight on something like Volskaya or Cursed Hollow, but it also allows you to stay in dragon form, and you'll win. Not only you'll keep everyone alive, but then you'll win the fight, and you'll continue to win the fight for the next 15 seconds, or even longer if you get the talent on this one, which adds 7 more seconds to it, so you stay dragon form for a really long time. That is the first mistake, not comboing your abilities with dragon form. The next mistake is using your ultimate ability for healing and not damage. And let me just throw in a quick random build. And the ultimate that I'm talking about is Cleansing Flame. Lifebinder's a little weak right now. So Cleansing Flame does 320 damage at level 22 or 712 healing at level 22. So if you're trying to get the most effect out of this, this means that you're going to be firing 5 fireballs at 320 damage, which means about 1,500 damage, right? And that's not enough to really kill anyone, right? I mean, unless they're really low. So I find if people are really, really low, you can use this to snipe them down. But if someone's sitting at half health, I see too many low-level players that will use this to try to kill someone at half health. Well, Arthas has 6,000 health at level 22. That means I'm only doing a fourth of his health for the entire ultimate ability. However, if I was to heal Arthas, 5 fireballs at 712 health means that I'm healing for over 3,500 health, meaning I'm healing more than half of Arthas's health. So I'm either doing a fourth of his health in damage, or I'm healing half of his health in healing. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to use my ult a couple times, once on healing. You can see I was doing about 750 healing per second for 3,500 healing. Let's toggle cooldowns for a second. And let's use it for damage. I'm doing about 350 DPS as well as about 1,600 damage. So you can see it's much more valuable to use this on healing, and your team's more likely to cluster if you use this ult, while their team's more likely to spread out, which means that you're likely going to be healing 2 or 3 people with this, while only damaging 1 or 2 people with this, which means it's way more valuable to use this for healing than it is for damage. However, if you get the opportunity where you can snipe someone that's really low health, or you get the opportunity where you can hit multiple targets at the same time, in this case, you can see I can heal someone at the same time as dealing damage, or I can hit multiple people at the same time, then you want to try to get those opportunities more than anything else. But yeah, definitely heal for that. It is one of the best saving abilities in the game, because you can use it on people that are really far away. Say, for example, another small thing that people don't know is you can actually move this around. Say you're down here in a different lane, boom, guess what, now you're in this lane, and you could save your team really quick, do some damage, And then you could also reposition back over here, or you can reposition back down here, whatever you want to do. So that is the mistakes that are done in the ult. The other mistake that I see commonly is people don't realize that when you use this ultimate ability, the cast time is actually her going into dragon form. So she goes into dragon form and then she flies up. You can see the dragon flying back and forth. But there's actually a much faster way to do this, and it cuts about half the cast time away. And it's also that you can use Dragon Queen first, and then you can use your ultimate ability. The other thing about this is it doesn't turn off your Dragon Queen, and it leaves the amount of time you had remaining. So if you use Dragon Queen first, and you're just doing whatever you're doing, you're casting your abilities, tossing out your heals, and then you get about halfway and you feel like you need Dragon Queen, watch how much faster it is to cast it. She immediately jumps up, she doesn't do a cast time, and you can immediately help your team. And then when your team's done getting helped, you can go back and land, and you're back in dragon form again. So I highly recommend not trying to, don't feel like you're going to waste your Dragon Queen. If you need to use an ult while you're in Dragon Queen, definitely go for the ult. And you can use it to reposition so that you can get a stronger Dragon Queen. And it's faster to cast it when you're in dragon form. So if you're in dragon form and someone's trying to kill you, sometimes it's best to use Cleansing Flame just to reposition. Also, kind of mini mistake as well is after the enemies use their stuff, say that they're on you, you can use your ult just to reposition if you feel like you're going to die. Because a dead Alexstraza is worse than a Alexstraza that doesn't have their ult available. So, those are the 3 mistakes, just to recap. Again, it's not using your abilities in combination with your dragon form. It's using your Cleansing Flame to mostly deal damage and not to heal. And it's also to not use your dragon, or to people that don't use their Cleansing Flame while they're in dragon form. Finally, the last mistake, and the most important mistake that I see way too often, is people using the W incorrectly. So I'm going to make sure that toggle cooldowns is on. I'm going to show you what people are doing incorrectly and what people should be doing. So if there's a fight going on here, a lot of times people will throw the heals right on top of people so that they can get the heals off, right? Or they'll throw the heals where people are going so that they can get the heals off. Well, throwing the heals where people are going is great in big team fights. In the laning phase, that's just going to cause the enemy to know where you're going to be, and they're going to root. And they're also going to mitigate the healing that you're going to do. Let's say, for example, you're going against an Ana. She could turn off the healing. Say you're going against a Chromie. She could do more than 20% of your maximum health, which means that if you drop a heal right here, everyone goes right here. Chromie's going to hit everyone. So, what I recommend, because the cooldown is so long, I recommend that you use your abundance only when you feel that the team fight is going to be guaranteed to stay right there and your person's going to be guaranteed to stay there, or you wait until the fight is over and you toss it in the back. This gives enough time for people to run over, get healing, and come back. You can even toss it behind this so that the enemies don't see it, and you can walk over, get healing, and go there. Sometimes you can even ping. You could say, hey, I'm going here, heal, and then go there. It only takes 2 or 3 times of you to doing this pinging before you do your heal for people to realize where you're going to send your heals. So I like to do that whenever I'm in a fight. We're fighting, and then guess what? They back off. I go like this, and then I go with my heal, and then I walk over. So simply pinging where you're going to go first before you go there is very beneficial, and sending your heals someplace that's safe that the enemies don't see that you're doing it is extremely beneficial. So I highly recommend start doing that technique when you're healing people, and stop tossing heals that are in the middle of this area just because the allies are there. No, simply ping back here, say you're going to do a heal back there, and then just walk back with your team. It's much safer and allows you to get more healing off more often. So those are the 4 mistakes that I commonly see on Alexstraza. Now, what is the build that I recommend on her? So there's a few builds that have been gaining a lot of popularity, and there's a few builds that have a higher win rate than they really should. So let's reset talents and go with the Hot Slogs build. Currently, the Hot Slogs build, the one that has the highest win rate on Hot Slogs and the most variety of level ranges, is the E build. What the E build does is its goal is to focus on, and this is always situational, but in this case I'm going to go Pacify, Duration, and then you usually want to go with either Ruby Wings or Blessing of the Red. But the E build is based on 2 concepts. The first concept is that you are going to be trying to get your dragon form off more than normal, which you do that by your level 1 quest, which makes it to where you can reduce the cooldown of Dragon Queen by 5 seconds for every hero hit with your E after they already have your E on them. The other benefit of this build is that it gives you a lot of self-sustain, as well as it gives you a lot of damage and wave clear potential. And it gives you slows and everything like that. You can miss a couple E's and that's perfectly fine. It's just, you can see how much healing I'm getting from each of these hits. This build is beneficial if you feel like you're outskilling the enemies and you're on a map that has objectives very often. Not necessarily one objective that you need to win immediately, but an objective that's going to pop up every few seconds or so. As well as it's just a pretty strong build if you outskill the enemies, because you can constantly be permanently slowing them and getting a lot of damage off. Those are the benefits of this build. However, this build is a huge trap build the higher ranking you get, because if you start getting into Masters, what's going to happen is you are going to be the most predictable person imaginable. You're going to toss an E, and what do they know now? They know that you're going to need to get in range of an E, and you're also going to need to walk up close enough to where you can land the E's easier, because the further range you are from your E, it's harder to land your E because there's so much travel distance. So people tend to get cocky and get closer and closer and closer so they can land E's, and you become very predictable in your movements because you want to make sure to get an E off every time, or you're not getting a lot of value. Because you're predictable, it means someone like ETC or Arthas or anyone can kill you. I highly recommend, if you're in Team League or you're trying to move up, this rank or this build is only good in lower ranks, or if you feel that you're really outskilling everyone, okay? Or else you're too predictable and you'll never see this build being used in pro play because you're so predictable and you're going to die really often. Also, sometimes you don't want to be positioned this close. So it's just not worth it, because if you position even this close to getting a couple of these, you might still be too close to the enemy. Sometimes you want to have your team right here and you're just healing your team while safely behind them until you pop your dragon. Alright, so that's the big mistake with this build. Let me reset talents and go to the build that I recommend in most scenarios. So, the build that I prefer in the perfect scenario is the Q build. But the Q build relies on you being above 75% health for the long period of time, but this build will out-heal every other hero in the game. I'm not even kidding. This build, you heal for a huge chunk of health, and you use your health every time that you heal. But then at level 7, as long as you're above 75% health, you drop down a little flower, and this little flower makes it to where you can heal. Let me just do the build really quick. This little flower means that you can heal again. As long as you pick it up, you can heal without needing to use your health. So you do your Q, you heal, you do your Q, you heal. So when is this build beneficial? Well, I like this build if you're heavy backline, meaning you have a single frontliner, and then you have a lot of backliners that are going to be jumping in, doing damage, and then jumping out, and you can get quick heals off on them and gain your life back. As well as the backliner, or the one frontliner you might have could always back up. You could heal him, and then you could get free heals off. It heals a ton. At level 23, you're healing for 943 health every time you use a Q. That's a fourth of my health. It's a huge chunk of healing, and with the cooldown reduction, it increases your cooldowns by 100%, meaning the 7 seconds is actually 3.5 seconds. So you're healing people by a ton. I personally think this is the highest healing in the game, if done correctly. But if you keep getting hit by things, and if they have a Genji who's going to be diving, or a Tracer who's going to be diving, you lose all of your healing in this build, because you're lower than 75%, so this talent's useless, this talent's useless, okay? So, what build do you do that works in the most areas, the most scenarios, the most maps, the build that will work in the most cases that you can use Alexstraza to carry your way up in the ranks, alright? And this is the build that I'm going to show you. And oftentimes this is referred to as the Jun Build, as he was the first one to use it in tournaments. So, Circle of Life. This talent makes it to where the longer the game goes on, the more effective your W is. At 15 regen globes, it's usually you get about mid-game. That means that you heal more. And at 25 regen globes, it means that you drop a regen globe. And watch, I'm going to do complete quests. You do your W. You'll drop a regen globe in the middle of your W, which means that you can give regen globes to your team, giving them more healing as well as more mana. And if you combine this with a Diablo, who has that talent at the beginning that makes regen globes more powerful, or maybe a Tracer who has the talent that makes it to where regen globes are more effective, that will allow you to, or a Li Ming who regen globes give you more, more mana as well as spell power. This allows you to have regen globes wherever you need them to be, and it's extremely powerful late game. Also, the bonus healing that you get from this early allows you to be, if you get like a Genji that dives on you, you can simply toss a heal back here, and you can gain a lot more life from it by completing this quest. The next talent I recommend is Exuberance. Your goal is to stay above 75% health, and if you do stay above 75% health, you get more movement speed. This allows you to heal without needing to be mounted the whole time, as well as this allows you to keep yourself healed, and it gives you movement speed. A lot of people recommend getting this, but the problem is when you're normally going to be landing a W, you're not going to be in the position where you need that movement speed. So I don't actually personally like that. I would prefer to have myself have movement speed at all times without needing to land a W first. Then at level 7, I like getting Life Blossom. Well, guess what? You don't need to get this talent to get value off of Life Blossom. This allows you to still have free healing consistently without ever needing to be worried about tossing Gift of Life for anything bad. So I like this because this allows you to heal your front line with Ws. It allows you to keep yourself healed with Ws, as well as it allows you to safely use Qs without worrying about constantly needing to use your W for self heals. So with this combo, I can heal the back line with Qs. And the back line allows me to pick up these easily. I can heal the front line with Ws, and I never get low enough on health that I need to worry about using Ws on myself. So I W the front line, I Q the back line, and that's how I keep using this build. I always go Cleansing Flame. Level 13, I go Pacify if they have one major person that's going to be doing a lot of damage, or if they have a Sonya, I pretty much always pick Pacify. Now, there's a benefit to Pacify. If you heal a stunned, rooted, or silenced ally, you reduce the cooldown of it, which makes this one of the best damage-reducing abilities on the enemies, because every time that you see an ally who's stunned, rooted, or silenced, which means you could just do simply a W on a tank who's fighting, you're likely going to get it, or you see someone that gets stunned or rooted over here, quickly throw a Q on them, and guess what? Your Pacify's on a lower cooldown. I like Pacify 90% of the time. If not, if we have a solo tank and they have a variety of damage dealers that Pacify is not going to work, I like going with this. This allows you to quickly burst heal an ally. And again, same rules apply. Healing a stunned or rooted ally increases the cooldown. I don't like to get this one that gives you armor when stunned, rooted, or silenced, because I use movement speed to keep myself in a position where I never need that. And so let's say I get Pacify in this scenario. I always like to get the Dragon Queen duration, unless I went the Q build, because it just allows you to stay in Dragon Queen for longer, and it gives you a higher chance of winning objectives, and objectives win the game. You may go, well, this gives a lot of shields. Yes, it's good, but it's not that good. Then at level 20, there are only 2 talents I ever recommend people getting. On Ruby Wings, if people are clustering. If you have a lot of melee, and the enemies have a lot of melee, this is a guaranteed pick, because it means you're always going to get those extra Dragon Queens, alright? But if, for example, there's only one tank on your team and one tank on the enemy team, and both teams are very ranged, I highly recommend getting the Blessing of the Red. This gives 500 extra health to everyone on your team. Why do I say everyone? Because the cooldown is 40 seconds, and it permanently gives extra health as long as they don't die. Please don't die, Malfurion. I'm trying to prove a point. So you can put it on him, and then when the cooldown's up, you can go and put it on someone else. I don't think I could put it on this, but let's say, yeah, there you go. So I can put it on this, and it still is on Malfurion at the same time. This allows you to put this buff on all of your heroes, giving you effectively 2,000 more health on your team, which is effectively the health of another half of a hero. So you make your team essentially a 5.5 versus 5. It is an extremely good talent, and it gives your people that are very squishy, like Tracers, Genjis, extra health and a higher chance of surviving. I highly recommend doing this if your team is heavy ranged, and I highly recommend doing this if your team is heavy melee. Those are the only 2 talents you should be looking at. Don't look at this, don't look at this. That's it. Alright? That's it. So those are the 4 common mistakes that I see on Alexstraza, as well as the build that I recommend for the most scenarios. I apologize if this video was longer than most of my 4 mistakes made, but I really love Alexstraza, and there was a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much for watching this. If you have other tips for Alexstraza, throw it in the comments below. Thank you so much, and if you like these style of videos, I highly recommend subscribing, you know?